Hello, my name is Ross Moldoff. I'm the planning director for the town of Salem. I'm here to give you a presentation on the Tuscan Village project in Salem, New Hampshire, a very exciting development that has been underway for about 5 years here in Salem. And I'm going to summarize that effort in about 5 minutes, hopefully. And then Roy Sorenson, the town's director of municipal services, will go over some of the infrastructure projects related to the Tuscan Village development. This is what you're looking at here is an aerial view. At the top of the screen is Route 93. Off to the right of the slide is we're heading north, but down to the left is Exit 1, Rockingham Park Boulevard, coming into the site. And the mall at Rockingham Park is there. And then right next to that is the 170-acre site of the Tuscan Village project. This is the former site of the Rockingham Park racetrack. The racetrack was sold and ultimately razed, and the Tuscan Village project is taking its place. The project really was developed in 2 phases. The first phase, towards the bottom of the slide on the right-hand side, is what we call North Village, and that was on 50 acres. And the rest of the project was to the south, and that was called South Village, or is called South Village. South Village is under construction. The first stores are already open, but the bulk of the stores will be opening on May 1st of this year. This next slide shows a site plan for the project. I guess what I'd like to show here is that this is a mixed-use project. It consists of a lot of retail development, but also a lot of residential development. There's a total of 1,200 residential units that are being developed on the site. The whole project, including the residential, we're talking close to 3 million square feet. In the South Village part of the project, there will be a hotel. There's a medical office building. Mass General is coming up to the area, not so much with a hospital, but with outpatient facilities. There was a lot of office space that was approved, and there was also some assisted living that was originally approved, but that has now been converted to residential space as opposed to senior living or assisted living. This is an overview, an aerial rendering of what the project is going to look like. This is more the central portion of the village. There is a downtown component to it. The length of this project, part of the project, will be on the order of 2 football fields or so. And this will be a downtown, which Salem does not have, and we're very excited about this portion of the project. This is where the hotel is going to be located, office space, retail on the first floor. There's actually, in the foreground there at the top of the slide, you can see some of the residential projects that are coming in also. If you're interested, there is a wonderful video fly-through, basically, of the site. The project maintains their own webpage at Tuscan Village, I believe, is the type that in and you'll get the webpage for the project. And this, I thought, would just be interesting to give you an overview of some of the benefits and to kind of lead into the infrastructure discussion. This is a slide that was presented to the planning board by the Tuscan Village people. They talked about $50 million a year in tax revenue, one-time revenue of about $30 million, including impact fees and building permit fees. And we also have water and sewer fees in Salem that would make up about $8 million. The applicant has said that they're spending about $30 million in infrastructure improvements, and of that, about $5 million is a flood storage project where they daylighted a stream that had been culverted through the racetrack site. They opened that up and are using that as a major feature of the development project. They've also highlighted the construction jobs and the total number of permanent jobs, and the fact that this project is creating a town center for the town of Salem, as I mentioned, the downtown, and in many ways is a catalyst for future economic development in the community. So it's a very exciting project and fun project for us to be working on, although a heck of a lot of work, obviously. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Roy to talk about the infrastructure aspects of the project.
All right, thank you. As Ross Moldoff mentioned, my name is Roy Sorenson. I'm the Municipal Services Director in Salem. And obviously, with the major improvements at the former racetrack now, which is now the Tuscan Village, we have significant area improvements around that development. Obviously, we leveraged the development itself with plenty of impact fees coming in and some demand benefit assessments. So just a little bit of overview, some numbers, and we'll get into these in more detail. But SOAR improvements, $7+ million we spent on upgrading our main SOAR interceptor on Route 28. Similarly with the water, new 12-inch water main, mile and a half, 2 miles of water work, $3+ million there. Culvert improvement, we replaced a undersized culvert on Route 28 and pretty much doubled that in size, and that ties into the floodplain improvements on the actual Tuscan Village site. Some major intersection improvements, $25+ million there, and obviously throughout we have road and sidewalk improvements, obviously for pedestrian traffic and mode shift. A big part of this development obviously is mode shift and the ability to get people moving throughout this area via, bikes, walking, running, driving, whatever it might be. So very exciting project. And you can just kind of see the area I have circled. That's a big area in Salem that is pretty much that whole circle is pretty much under construction at this point. And encompasses a great radius. And for the past 5 years, there's been a lot going on within that area. I'll start off with the SOAR improvements. Our engineer that performed all this designed it, and they're actually they oversaw the whole Route 28 project, which involved water, SOAR, and the culvert, was Underwood Engineers. And a big thing we did here is we had SOAR issues. Our SOAR line would come from the west side up here where you see my hand is, and it would dip down onto South Broadway. The majority of the SOAR that came from North Broadway actually went down Main Street this way, crossed down Granite Ave, Westchester Street, and came back out to Route 28. This whole area, because of the flow, the direction of flow, and the undersized SOAR mains, was just a bad area, and we had numerous, as you can see here, sanitary SOAR overflows. What this project basically did was take this, almost as I mentioned earlier, 1.5-mile stretch of Route 28 and started a 24-inch SOAR line all through this corridor. This is currently where the Tuscan Village redevelopment is, and that certainly obviously will tie into that. Down here, if you're familiar with the area, this is the target. And this is where we tied into our major interceptor that takes all our SOAR. Our storage goes to the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District and is then released back to the Merrimack River. But this project itself, as I mentioned, we just completed this last year. And it alleviated many things: bottlenecks, sanitary SOAR overflows. Obviously, it took an abundance of I&I out of our system. Great project for the town, well overdue, and the flows in through this area now are more adequate for the size system. And obviously, it improves any type of condition where you might have any type of new development that comes in and around this area. Pretty much the same thing with the water main. All the water main through this area was, as it says right here, 100+ years old, particularly in this area up here by what is the depot intersection, and we'll talk about that intersection as well in a slide coming up. This is a water main failure. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. We had a major blowout, and this isn't only one. We had a series of these within this area, just because of size problems with the water main, different types of water main. We had old cast iron water main, as I mentioned in here. And we were able to obviously replace all this water main and clean up what was going on in the depot intersection. We had a series of different size mains that came through here, causing flow issues, pressure issues, and water quality issues for the most part. And we were able to clean all that up. I should mention too, with this project here, this is old Route 28. In the area that we ran the water and the sewer, this is a 4-lane road through here, 2 south and 2 north. The 2 inside lanes, 1 north and 1 south respectively, had the concrete panels from the original road were currently still in place along the stretch of this project. Those concrete panels had to be fully removed, obviously, and that left us with 2 nice corridors to put the new water and sewer in, and all new services as well. So Ross mentioned some of the floodplain improvements that were done on the Tuscan site. This is actually part of that, which you can see down here. If you're familiar with the area, this is Route 28, and our post office is over here. We receive significant watershed areas from North Salem, come down across over Main Street up here. They come on the backside of the post office underneath 28, and then they feed into this new floodplain. Over the years, this whole road was subject to the flooding overtopping the road due to inadequate storage and inadequate facilities to receive those headwaters coming from the north. And these areas of the town, these neighborhoods over here would flood out us too. So as part of our project, we took the old 5x5 concrete. It was actually granite composite culvert that was assembled here under 28, and we put in a 12x5 open trench box culvert in here, completely crossing Route 28 and feeding into the new system. Underwood Engineers again oversaw this part of our project. Hoyle and Tanner did help out. I should have mentioned previous in the slide before that CDM was our water consultant for our water work on 28. And you can see some of the flooding. This area here that's flooded out, this was all the flooding that took place in this area. So during heavy rain events, hurricanes, whatever it might be, this area was subject to being flooded and obviously had to be closed many times, which is a big corridor, obviously, to close. This corridor here, where all this work took place, that's about 30,000 cars per day through this area. So massive project. It was a 2-year project, and it was completed on time and on budget. So we were happy we'd get those improvements done. A little bit more on the flood improvements because it's a good story to tell. As part of the Tuscan Village Tie-in Bond did a pretty much a hydraulic flood study for the town within the area of the new development. And part of their work on the site itself, this is Route 28 down here, and this is the culvert I just showed you, was to reroute the water that comes onto the site and then exits the site. And as Ross mentioned, that was done by daylighting a lot of the flow that comes through. The flow previously came off of Pleasant Street and flowed this way across what is now you see the Tuscan Market Basket, which is in here. That was completely eliminated, and we put in a major box culvert, or they did, I should say. It wasn't the town. The Tuscan development did this work along Pleasant Street and tied into this open swale area that ultimately feeds into a much larger open area here, plus also floodplain storage in here before the waters head out underneath Rockingham Park Boulevard and south towards the Spigot River. But this is kind of the construction that took place with that box culvert. This is one of the first things that went as part of that development. That was going to be back in 2017. So complete floodplain improvements all throughout this area to help alleviate issues that have been ongoing for years. We jump ahead. This is solely a town project, and this is a project that is funded via state and federal highway and LPA project. It's a 25-year-old project. This project was introduced by the town and DOT to federal highway back in 1995. And what it is this is Main Street and this is Route 28. This area is also known as the Depot intersection. One of the worst intersections, certainly in Salem, if not the state. And what we're doing here is we're widening the road so we have designated left-hand turns. Currently, right now, as I mentioned earlier, you only have 4 lanes going north, 2 lanes north, 2 south, so 4 on either side. Now you're going to have a designated turn lane. In order to do this work, and this is currently under construction right now, we had to take these properties over here. There were 7 properties that were taken via eminent domain, and the road widening will take place on the west side. There's a lot of work in this area right now. It's happening, as I mentioned. We're dealing with a lot of contaminated soils, a lot of contaminated groundwater. But in the end, we've taken all the utilities on the telephone poles. All of that's going underground. That work's in place and done. The road will be widened, and we'll have all new traffic signals all throughout here. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things we're doing as far as that goes. But we worked with VHB. They put the project, got it through permitted, designed, and obviously got everything together for the funding. And currently right now, McFarland Johnson's out there as our project manager, working with the town on getting this project through. We expect to finish this project if things go well by the end of this year. If not, we'll probably do the finished paving come spring of 2022. As Ross mentioned earlier, and I did myself, there's significant infrastructure and road improvements around the redevelopment itself. Here, right here, if we're looking at it, this is the Depot project. So here's Main Street, here's Route 28. We're also looking at major intersection projects up here at Main and Pleasant Street, down here at Willow Street, where Willow Street hits Route 28, and potentially a ring road coming through here. And these are all conceptual as of right now. In order for this road to get put in, there'd be some major wetlands permitting and other things that need to be done. But in general, this whole area will be improved for traffic flow and really cut back on the traffic restrictions that we've been seeing for decades out here. And one of the things we're doing with all the intersections, I'll go on to the next slide, even with the Tuscan, and this is an intersection here, here, and there's 2 more over here. All of these intersections have the old-fashioned antique traffic signals or decorative traffic signals. All the signage through here will kind of have that village feel to it. So this whole area or downtown that we're trying to establish, a lot of which will take place in the development itself and surrounding it, has that village feel to it. As I mentioned, the Depot area will have the same thing with street lighting, amenities for any type of movement, pedestrian, bicycle, and or vehicle. So this whole, as we mentioned, anything you see that's colored right here, these are major road improvements to be done. This section, this is the post office. This is done. Currently, this green section will go this year. That's a major project, obviously, to be undertaken. The pink section and the purple section here, these were finished last year. This is Mall Road. Here's the mall over here. This is Rockingham Park Boulevard. So it's been a fantastic, obviously, development for the town. We've been able to leverage it and use it to get some major infrastructure improvements in and around it itself. And over the last 5 years, this has just been a bustling area of construction and infrastructure improvements. But as I mentioned, well worth it. It's been a long time. This area was in much need of rehabilitation. And certainly, given the opportunity, we're taking advantage of that, and we're certainly making many improvements throughout.